it came to raw power, nothing hit harder than the 426 Hemi engine. Nicknamed the elephant motor for its massive size and strength, this beast dominated the muscle car scene from 1966 to 1971. With its groundbreaking hemispherical design and mind-blowing horsepower, it became a legend on the track and the streets. But here's the shocking part. It was banned. NASCAR and racing officials couldn't handle its dominance, forcing Chrysler to take drastic action. Why was this monster outlawed? And what happened next? The truth behind the 426 Hemi's ban will leave you speechless. The origin of the Chrysler 426 Hemi. In the early 1960s, Chrysler was struggling to keep up in NASCAR. Ford and Chevrolet had powerful engines that dominated the racetrack, while Chrysler relied on its max wedge engines. These engines were strong, but lacked the speed and efficiency needed to win big races. Chrysler knew it had to create something better, something faster and more powerful to compete with its rivals. To solve this problem, Chrysler engineers began working on a new engine that would change everything. Their goal was to design an engine specifically for NASCAR, one that could outrun the competition. They decided to use a unique hemispherical combustion chamber, a design that allowed for better airflow and more efficient burning of fuel. This decision led to the birth of the 426 Hemi, an engine that would make history. Before this breakthrough, Chrysler had already experimented with Hemi engines. The idea of hemispherical combustion chambers wasn't new. It had been around since the 1940s. Chrysler first used the design in airplane engines before bringing it to cars in the 1950s. The first-generation Hemi engines, known by names like Firepower, Red Ram, and Super Red Ram, were available in Chrysler, Dodge, and DeSoto vehicles between 1951 and 1958. These engines performed well, but Chrysler eventually moved away from the Hemi design and focused on other engine types. Then, in the early 1960s, everything changed. Chrysler saw an opportunity to bring back the Hemi engine, but this time with a focus on racing. Engineers at Plymouth, one of Chrysler's brands, began developing a brand-new Hemi engine in 1963. Their goal was clear: build an engine that would dominate NASCAR. The new engine was based on the knowledge gained from previous Hemi designs, but was much larger and more powerful. It was named the 426 Hemi after its 426 cubic inch displacement. When Chrysler introduced the 426 Hemi in 1964, it was an instant game-changer. The engine made its debut at the Daytona 500, one of the biggest NASCAR races of the year. Chrysler's cars, powered by the new Hemi, completely dominated the race. Richard Petty, one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history, won the event, and Chrysler cars took the top 3 spots. This victory proved that Chrysler had built something truly special. Before the 426 Hemi could be sold to the public, it had to meet NASCAR's rules. Racing regulations require that manufacturers sell a certain number of engines to regular customers before using them in races. This rule was known as homologation. To meet this requirement, Chrysler decided to make a version of the Hemi engine available in street cars. This allowed them to continue using the engine in NASCAR while also giving regular car buyers a chance to own a piece of racing technology. Shockingly, the Chrysler 426 Hemi became famous almost overnight. Its success in NASCAR helped build its reputation, and car enthusiasts quickly became interested in the powerful new engine. The name Hemi itself became iconic, and Chrysler even trademarked it to make sure no other company could use it. Although the 426 Hemi was originally built for racing, its influence went far beyond the track. It marked the return of Chrysler's legendary Hemi engines and set the stage for a new era of high-performance vehicles. The design and features of the Chrysler 426 Hemi engine. Well, no doubt, The Chrysler 426 Hemi engine is one of the most famous engines in automotive history. It is known for its unique design and structure, which made it different from other engines of its time. While many engines had a simple design, the 426 Hemi had special features that made it strong, efficient, and reliable. A different type of cylinder head. First, the most important part of the 426 Hemi engine is its cylinder head design. Unlike regular engines, which have flat or wedge-shaped heads, the Hemi has a hemispherical combustion chamber. This means that the top of each cylinder is shaped like a dome, instead of being flat. The term Hemi comes from the word hemisphere, which describes this half-circle shape. This dome-shaped design helps with airflow inside the engine. Because of the round shape, the air and fuel inside the cylinder mix better before they ignite. This allows for a cleaner and more complete burn of the fuel. The result is an engine that runs efficiently and smoothly without wasting fuel. How the valves are positioned. Another special feature of the 426 Hemi engine is its valve placement. In most regular engines, the intake and exhaust valves are positioned next to each other. However, in the Hemi design, the valves are placed on opposite sides of the combustion chamber. This is called a cross-flow design, because the air enters from one side and exits from the other. The benefit of this design is that it allows air and fuel to flow more freely through the engine. With better airflow, the engine can breathe easier, which makes it more efficient at burning fuel. However, this design also makes the engine larger and wider. Because the valves are positioned far apart, the cylinder head needs to be big and strong to hold them. This means that 426 Hemi engines take up more space under the hood compared to other engines. A stronger piston design. Next, the pistons inside the 426 Hemi engine are also different from those in regular engines. In a typical engine, the top of the piston is flat or slightly curved. However, in the Hemi engine, the pistons have a dome shape to match the hemispherical combustion chamber above them. This domed piston design helps increase the compression ratio inside the cylinder. A higher compression ratio means the air and fuel are packed tighter together before they ignite. However, the street version of the 426 Hemi had a lower compression ratio than the racing version, which makes it suitable for everyday driving. A special spark plug location. The features list didn't end there. Another important part of the Hemi design is the position of the spark plug. In most engines, the spark plug is placed on one side of the cylinder, which can sometimes cause an uneven burn of the fuel. But in the 426 Hemi, the spark plug is positioned right in the center of the combustion chamber. This placement helps the spark travel evenly across the fuel mixture, creating a balanced and controlled ignition. As a result, the engine burns fuel more effectively, which reduces waste and increases efficiency. A unique rocker arm setup. Because of the special valve placement, the 426 Hemi engine also needed a different type of rocker arm system. The rocker's arms are the parts of the engine that help open and close the valves. In most engines, the rocker arms are simple and small because the valves are placed close together. But in the Hemi engine, the rocker's arms had to be longer to reach the wide-set valves. This made the valve train system more complex, but it was necessary to keep the engine working properly. To support this unique design, the 426 Hemi engine was built with a strong double rocker shaft system. This helped the rocker's arms move smoothly, even at high speeds. However, this setup also made the engine heavier than other engines with simpler designs. A larger intake manifold. Despite this, to support the high airflow needs of the 426 Hemi engine, Chrysler engineers designed a large intake manifold. The intake manifold is the part of the engine that delivers air and fuel to the cylinders. The Hemi intake manifold had two 4-barrel carburetors, which were used to mix air and fuel before sending it into the cylinders. This allowed the engine to take in more air and maintain steady fuel delivery. Because the intake manifold was so large, it gave the Hemi engine a distinct look under the hood. This design also meant that the engine required more space compared to other V8 engines of the time. A high-strength engine block. However, since the 426 Hemi was designed to handle intense pressure inside the cylinders, it needed a strong and durable engine block. Chrysler engineers used cast iron to build the engine block, making it tough and long-lasting. Cast iron is a heavy material, but it is also very strong, which helped keep the engine from wearing out quickly. Additionally, the Hemi engine block had extra reinforcement in key areas to handle the force created inside the cylinders. This made the engine more durable and less likely to crack or break under stress. A wide and sturdy exhaust system. Along with them, one more significant feature of the 426 Hemi is its exhaust system. Since the engine takes in a lot of air and fuel, it also needs an efficient way to get rid of exhaust gases after combustion. The Hemi exhaust ports were designed to be large and wide, allowing gases to exit quickly. This prevented the engine from overheating and helped it run smoothly over long periods. The placement of the exhaust valves also helped improve the cooling process inside the engine. Since the exhaust gases were able to leave quickly, the engine could stay at a stable temperature, reducing the risk of damage from overheating. A strong and efficient cooling system. And last but not least, the strong cooling system. Because the 426 Hemi engine was designed to handle intense heat, it required a strong cooling system to prevent overheating. To solve this, Chrysler engineers designed extra cooling passages inside the engine block. These passages allowed coolant to flow smoothly through the engine, helping keep it at a safe temperature. The cooling system also included a high-performance water pump, which helped circulate coolant faster than in regular engines. This ensured that the Hemi engine could run for long periods without overheating, while the 426 Hemi engine was different. Overall, the design and features of the Chrysler 426 Hemi engine made it stand out from other engines of its time. It had a hemispherical combustion chamber, unique valve placement, domed pistons, and a strong engine block. Not to mention, these features made the 426 Hemi a complex but well-engineered machine. While it was larger and heavier than other engines, its special design helped improve airflow, fuel burning, and durability. Even though the 426 Hemi engine required more space, weight, and complex parts, Chrysler engineers made sure it was built strong and reliable. This engine remains one of the most well-known designs in the history of automotive engineering. Performance and challenges of the Chrysler 426 Hemi engine. Now let's talk power. The Chrysler 426 Hemi was a powerhouse, but it wasn't perfect. While its unique design gave it unmatched strength and durability, it also brought several challenges. Some issues made it difficult for everyday drivers, while others affected its overall practicality. Raw power and speed. First, the 426 Hemi was built for high performance. It produced an incredible 425 horsepower, making it one of the most powerful engines of its time. This engine could launch muscle cars down the road like rockets, reaching 0 to 60 mph in under 6 seconds. Quarter-mile runs took just over 13 seconds, an impressive speed for the late 1960s. Because of its superior airflow and hemispherical combustion chamber, the Hemi engine burned fuel efficiently during high-speed driving. This design allowed the engine to perform better than most other V8s of its era, especially in racing conditions. However, its true power came alive at high RPMs. The 426 Hemi needed to be pushed hard to deliver peak performance, making it ideal for professional racing, but less suitable for casual street driving. Weight and size issues. One of the biggest drawbacks of the 426 Hemi was its weight. This engine was a heavyweight, tipping the scales at over 800 pounds. Compared to other V8 engines, it was significantly larger and bulkier. Because of its size, fitting the 426 Hemi into standard muscle cars required modifications. The engine bay needed to be widened, and extra reinforcements were necessary to handle the additional weight. This made it difficult for some cars to accommodate the Hemi without major adjustments. Additionally, the heavy engine affected the car's handling. Vehicles with a Hemi under the hood tended to have more weight in the front, which could lead to understeer, where the car struggles to turn sharply. While this wasn't a major issue for drag racing, it made cornering more challenging on regular streets. Fuel consumption and cost. Apart from them, another major downside was fuel consumption. The 426 Hemi was not built for fuel efficiency. It guzzled gasoline at an alarming rate, especially when driven aggressively. In an era when fuel economy wasn't a big concern, this wasn't a huge problem for racers, but for everyday drivers, it could become costly. Adding to this, the engine required high-octane fuel to run properly. Regular gasoline wasn't enough to support its high compression ratio. This meant owners had to spend more money on premium fuel, further increasing the cost of owning a Hemi-powered car. Beyond fuel costs, the Hemi itself was expensive. Ordering a 426 Hemi in the late 1960s added nearly $900 to the price of a car. That might not seem like much today, but back then it was a significant increase, often more than 15% of the car's total cost. Maintenance challenges. Maintenance is not a small one, but a bigger headache. The 426 Hemi was a complex engine that required special care. Unlike simpler V8s, which could be easily tuned and repaired, the Hemi needed expert hands to keep it running at peak performance. One of the biggest challenges was valve adjustments. The engine's unique valve placement required precise tuning. If the valves weren't adjusted correctly, performance could drop and mechanical problems could arise. Many average car owners struggled to maintain their Hemi engines without professional help. Additionally, the engine's dual carburetors needed frequent fine-tuning. If one carburetor delivered too much or too little fuel compared to the other, the engine could run poorly. This added another layer of difficulty for those who weren't familiar with high-performance tuning. Because of its advanced design, replacing parts wasn't always easy. Certain components of the 426 Hemi were larger and heavier than those found in regular V8 engines. Removing and installing parts required more effort, and repairs often took longer than with other engines. Street versus track performance. It has to be accepted, on the racetrack, the 426 Hemi was nearly unstoppable. It dominated drag races and NASCAR circuits, proving itself as one of the most powerful engines in motorsports. Its ability to produce high horsepower, maintain stability under extreme conditions, and withstand high RPMs made it a favorite among professional racers. However, on regular streets, the Hemi wasn't as practical. Because it was tuned for high-speed performance, it didn't always run smoothly at lower speeds. The aggressive camshaft and high-compression setup made idling rough, and some drivers found it difficult to handle in stop-and-go traffic. One significant problem was heat management. The engine produced a lot of heat due to its high-performance nature. Keeping the Hemi cool requires an advanced cooling system, and overheating could become a problem if the cooling system isn't properly maintained. Despite these challenges, many enthusiasts still preferred the 426 Hemi for its raw power and unique design. For those who could handle its quirks, it provided an unmatched driving experience. The ban of the 426 Hemi engine. Despite its dominance on the racetrack, the 426 Hemi faced serious challenges off it. The engine was simply too powerful for NASCAR, and its overwhelming success forced officials to take drastic action. In 1965, NASCAR announced that the 426 Hemi would be banned from competition, shaking up the sport and altering Chrysler's future in racing. At the heart of the controversy was the fact that the 426 Hemi was not available in production vehicles at the time. NASCAR had a rule stating that any engine used in competition had to be based on a mass-produced, street-legal version. Since Chrysler had built the Hemi specifically for racing, it did not meet this requirement. Officials believed that allowing the Hemi to compete gave Chrysler an unfair advantage over other manufacturers, so they made the decision to remove it from NASCAR entirely. The ban angered Chrysler and its racing teams. Chrysler had invested heavily in the development of the 426 Hemi, and its engineers knew they had built something revolutionary. However, without NASCAR approval, all that effort seemed wasted. In response, Chrysler decided to withdraw from NASCAR altogether for the 1965 season. Instead of competing in stock car racing, they focused their efforts on drag racing, where the 426 Hemi would continue to shine. Impact on NASCAR. With Chrysler out of the picture, NASCAR's Grand National Division turned into a Ford-dominated battle. Ford and Mercury teams, which had previously struggled against the Hemi-powered Dodges and Plymouths, now had the track to themselves. While Ford fans enjoyed seeing their cars win, many NASCAR enthusiasts felt the ban had made the sport less competitive. Without Chrysler, NASCAR races lacked variety, and attendance at events began to decline. Beyond this, lap speeds also suffered. The 426 Hemi had raised the bar for speed in NASCAR, and without it, race cars were noticeably slower. Fans who had grown used to the thrilling, high-speed action of Hemi-powered cars now watched races that seemed less intense. Sponsors also took notice, and some pulled their funding from teams due to the reduced excitement on the track. Even Ford, which benefited from the ban, had its own disagreements with NASCAR. The company had developed a powerful 427 cubic-inch overhead cam engine, but NASCAR refused to allow it in competition as well. This led to further controversy, making 1965 one of the most chaotic years in NASCAR history. The 426 Hemi's reign in NHRA racing. While NASCAR banned the 426 Hemi, the engine found a new home in drag racing. Chrysler wasted no time in shifting its focus to the National Hot Rod Association, NHRA, where the Hemi-powered Dodges and Plymouths quickly became dominant forces on the drag strip. In NHRA Superstock racing, the 426 Hemi-powered cars were nearly unbeatable. Drivers like Dick Landy, Butch Leal, and the famous Sox and Martin team used the engine to win major national events. The Hemi's high horsepower, excellent durability, and ability to handle extreme speeds made it a perfect fit for drag racing. One of the biggest advantages of the Hemi in drag racing was its ability to handle nitromethane fuel. With this high-powered fuel mixture, Hemi-powered cars could reach even greater speeds and set record-breaking times. By 1966, the 426 Hemi had established itself as the engine of choice for professional drag racers. However, NHRA officials soon faced the same problem that NASCAR had encountered. The 426 Hemi was simply too dominant. Other manufacturers struggled to keep up, and complaints began to rise about the engine's overwhelming advantage. As a result, NHRA introduced stricter rules, forcing Hemi-powered cars to compete in different classes or carry additional weight to balance the competition. Despite these efforts, the Hemi continued to dominate. Even with rule changes, Chrysler-powered drag racers kept setting records and winning championships. The Hemi's success in NHRA helped solidify its reputation as one of the greatest engines in motorsports history, dominating NASCAR with 426 Hemi power. Even though NASCAR had banned the 426 Hemi in 1965, Chrysler found a way to bring it back. In response to the rule requiring competition engines to be available in production cars, Chrysler made a bold move. They built a street-legal version of the 426 Hemi. In 1966, Chrysler introduced the Street Hemi, a slightly detuned version of the racing engine that could be sold to the public. By producing at least 500 of these engines for street use, Chrysler met NASCAR's eligibility requirements, and the Hemi was allowed to return to the track. With the ban lifted, Hemi-powered cars once again took over NASCAR. Richard Petty, one of the sport's greatest drivers, used a Hemi-powered Plymouth Belvedere to dominate the 1966 season. He won the Daytona 500 in commanding fashion, lapping the entire field in a performance that left no doubt about the Hemi's superiority. Other drivers also found success with the 426 Hemi. Bobby Isaac used a Hemi-powered Dodge Charger Daytona to break speed records and win the 1970 NASCAR Grand National Championship. Buddy Baker became the first driver to break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier on a closed course, setting a record in a Dodge Charger Daytona. However, the Hemi's dominance once again put it under scrutiny. NASCAR officials, concerned that the engine was making the sport too one-sided, introduced more rule changes in the early 1970s. They placed restrictions on aerodynamics and engine sizes, making it harder for Hemi-powered cars to maintain their advantage. The long-term impact of the ban and a lasting legacy. Looking back, NASCAR's ban on the 426 Hemi in 1965 had a major impact on the world of motorsports. While it temporarily removed Chrysler from stock car racing, it also pushed the company to expand its influence in drag racing. Without the ban, the Hemi might not have become as legendary in NHRA competition as it did. The controversy also changed the way automakers approached racing. After NASCAR forced Chrysler to build a street version of the Hemi, other manufacturers realized they needed to create high-performance production cars to meet racing requirements. This decision played a key role in the rise of the muscle car era, as companies like Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler began producing powerful street-legal vehicles that were inspired by their racing engines. Even after all these years, the 426 Hemi remains one of the most famous engines ever built. Its power and performance made it a legend in racing, but its story didn't end there. The NASCAR ban that once seemed like a setback actually helped cement the Hemi's place in history. Instead of fading away, the engine became even more popular among car enthusiasts, collectors, and racers. More than just an engine, the 426 Hemi became a symbol of American muscle car culture. It represented speed, power, and the thrill of high-performance driving. Classic Mopar muscle cars with Hemi engines became some of the most sought-after vehicles in the world. Car collectors and enthusiasts continue to restore and preserve these cars, keeping the Hemi legend alive. At the same time, Chrysler never truly let the Hemi disappear. While the original 426 Hemi was discontinued in 1971, its influence never faded. Modern Mopar engines, like the Hellcat and Demon, carry on the spirit of the Hemi with extreme horsepower and performance. These modern muscle cars show just how much impact the 426 Hemi had on the future of performance vehicles. Even in pop culture, the 426 Hemi left a lasting mark. It appeared in countless movies, TV shows, and songs, becoming a symbol of raw American horsepower. The phrase, "Yeah, it's got a Hemi," became a well-known catchphrase, celebrating the engine's dominance on both the track and the streets. Because of its impact, the 426 Hemi isn't just remembered, it's celebrated. Restored Hemi-powered muscle cars sell for massive amounts at auctions, with rare models reaching millions of dollars. For car lovers, owning a real 426 Hemi vehicle is like owning a piece of history. In the end, the 426 Hemi wasn't just an engine, it was a revolution. It changed the way people saw performance cars, shaped the golden age of muscle cars, and inspired generations of racers and builders. From the racetrack to the streets, the Hemi proved that true legends never die. Now we turn the question over to you. Was banning the 426 Hemi fair, or was it just too powerful for the competition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more shocking stories from the world of muscle cars.